All right. Hey, guess what? Good morning. And we are just going to spend a few minutes with you. Um, yes, good morning. We are going to spend a few minutes, or I will spend a few minutes with you dealing with this particular situation, and that is the PPP's visit to Linden, the mining town, yesterday. And I should be joined by you'll see that individual when he gets on and to discuss the visit. This not a surprise visit at all to the people to the mining town of Linden, but I just want to talk about the visit and talk about the propaganda and talk about the lies because I don't want the people of Region 10 or in Linden to fall for this trickery, to fall for this propaganda, and to give this impression, the PPP giving this impression that they are really in love with the people of Linden. Suddenly, I take umbrage to that. After all, what the PPP did to the people of Linden, they have starved the people of Linden, starved the people of Ituni, Kokwani, and other areas in Region 10. It's a fact. And the other insult to the Lindeners is that in 2006, the people didn't vote for the PPP to represent them, but they stole a seat from the people of Region 10. And they gave it to someone, Sam Hines, that is, who squatted in that seat for 5 years without doing anything for the people of Linden. And now, look, I'll say this politicians will go into areas that they want to penetrate, right? And what we're seeing now is the PPP is going into Linden, going into Region 10 to penetrate that region. They haven't won a seat there in years, except, of course, in 2006 when they stole the seat from the people of Linden, Region 10. They stole that seat. I'll give you another couple seconds to share the link, and I appreciate it's an impromptu something because we do believe in responding, rapid response to these sort of things. We don't want the propaganda to get out there, and Jagdeo thinks that it's okay for him to get out or get away with the propaganda. And speaking of the propaganda, someone said that the the guy who probably came out or is getting some sort of treatment from New Amsterdam Psychiatric Hospital goes by the name of Critic, is saying because of me highlighting these situations and countering what the lies of Jack Deere, all of a sudden, Ben Shap is a racist. That's all they can say. When you counter them with facts and evidence, the only thing they can jump and say is to play the race card, right? That's all they can jump and say. Oh, Ben Shap is racist. They don't even know the definition of racism. They don't know the definition of a racist or whatever. So it's a loose talk, and um, that intellectual handicapped individual, that intellectually handicapped individual critic, we can understand. Just imagine a nut. Well, lots of nuts usually would just turn on their Facebook page and they call themselves commentators and journalists and all these manner of things. But that's how the nuts will behave because we cannot counter these nuts and their propaganda. Every time we counter it, it's always racist. Nobody is racist. Racism, and they're the only ones. They're the only ones who are comfortable or who could, uh, who feel that they're allowed to go out and say whatever they want to say. Now, I want to talk about this so-called visit. It was not a visit. They just marched into Linden. They grabbed a couple of people. Most of the people who attended this meeting in Linden are not from Linden. They were bused into Linden, uh, cars took them into Linden, of course, party money, right? To what you call, I don't want to insult the people because people are starving throughout the country. It is a fact, right? People are starving throughout the country. And so when they go to the ordinary citizens and tell the citizens, we're going to help you get this and that, come, jump in the bus, let me go. They put the people in the bus and they bus the people to Linden. It's called rent a crowd. Rent a crowd without the people knowing and understanding what is being done to them. They've been used for political purposes. That's what it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. So let's get straight into a man who is there in Linden. I was looking for him in the crowd. He wasn't there. Certainly, he was probably tending to his chickens and all manner of things. But Apostle Nigel London, good morning, sir. How are you?
Greetings and shalom as well. Thank you, and thanks to those of you who are taking time to tune into the broadcast as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. But yesterday seemed to have been a busy day. Lots of buses and cars and boats heading into Linden there for that meeting with the PPP. What is
Certainly
your busy day? Go ahead.
Certainly. When I actually had an event yesterday, a race, some races I do cycling. So I didn't plan to go to the meeting anyway, because I saw the buses of people and I said to my daughter, this seems to be a political rally all over again, because the buses that were coming into Linden, they were not Lindeners in the buses. So I observed that and I took note of the fact that if ever the PPP administration is going to bring people into this town to claim that they're meeting with the residents of Linden, it is entirely geared towards a political campaign. And I was not proven to be wrong, because that's exactly what happened. The initial invitation that and I have first-hand information about this, was about discussing the gold project and the scholarships and so on. And then it became about highlighting the flaws of the APNU AFC coalition while they were in administration. My issue continues to be the fact that politicians, especially in this case the PPP Civic, those in that clan, they are thinking it's okay to just import people, I call it, into our townships, to have mileage in reference to photographs and so on, to say, well, we've had so many people attend and they have these tents that were set up and so on, just to have numbers attached to what they're saying, instead of having the crux of the matter address, which is what is affecting Lindeners per se. And that was not done yesterday, as far as I am aware, because if persons do not reside in Linden, then there's nothing for them to hear about in reference to our problems.
Exactly. And the folks who were actually bussed in, dozens of them, and to take the photograph to make it appear as though that these are all Lindeners. I'm not saying that there might not have been one and two Fifis in the audience. I'm not saying nay to that. But at the end of the day, it is wrong, and we've got to point out these things, that people have been imported into Linden just for the purpose of taking photographs so that they can prop up Jagdeo and the PPP, to give people outside of Region 10, outside of Linden, this impression that, oh my gosh, look at all those people in Linden. Look at the people. And that is what Jagdeo and the PPP are doing. That is what they have their propagandist, and whether they're low-level propagandists or not, disguised as critic or whatever they want to call themselves, it's propaganda, right? And these people are not going to tell you the truth. It is propaganda. But look at this here, Mr. London, 250, and now carefully, 250 small business grants, 800 part-time jobs for Region 10. I want you to discuss that, please, and what you think of that.
Thank you. It now became Region 10. I thought it would be Linden. So for those of you who are listening, Region 10 is quite expansive. And if we're going to discuss or hear about Region 10, Administrative Region 10, having 800 part-time jobs, Jagdeo initially said they're temporary jobs. And as simple as it may seem, there's a difference between a part-time job and a temporary job. If your job is part-time, it can be on a long-term basis, but you just work, let's say, 2 or 3 days per week. If your job is temporary, which is what happening in these construction areas and so on, you just work for a few days or a few weeks and then you're gone. He initially said it's going to be a temporary job. Added to that, it covers the entire region, which will include Kokwani, places like Rockstone and these places. So if you have to spread just for 800 people, how is that bringing economic relief to this depressed region? What Jagdeo failed to say is that the St. John's Ambulance Brigade crew, the entire complement of staff, would be reinstated. They terminated these people's employment during the pandemic at the most critical time. They fired all of them. We have so many, at least about 4 entities in Region 10, in Linden especially, where persons, the entire workforce would have been sent home. Instead of saying that he's here to reinstate these people so they can work and have food for their families, he's coming for a show yet again to say that, okay, persons are going to be employed on a part-time basis. Only 800 spreading across an entire region. Now, in reference to the 250 small business grants, Guyanese, Lindeners, all of you listening to me in the diaspora, please pay attention to what's happening here. You have got these announcements being made by Bharat Jagdeo. And if you can notice, Ashton Singh is sitting right beside him in the photographs. Bharat Jagdeo claims that he's not the Minister of Finance, but he is making serious economic decisions and announcements for Guyana. These small business grants, to what tune are they? Who is going to receive them? My brother Mark, I spoke about this earlier, but I have information very, very reliable and firsthand, where the PP Civic is giving in Upper Quarantine, for example, farmers 120 chickens and so on, plus 15 bags of feed to last 6 weeks chickens will be fed for, plus $100,000 cash grant for them to help with whatever they need in reference to farm to help with, and Lindeners. When I ask our officials in the agri sector, what about us? Have you heard about this? Some people have no clue. So this is all geared towards a political ploy, and it was, as far as I see it, another political campaign. The question that burns in my mind is, why must the PPP Civic begin to campaign so early if they are supposed to be settled in office?
And that's the burning question indeed. They were out in Essequibo crying and begging for the people, even right after the rice farmers went out. The rice farmers are upset. There are other people who are upset with the PPP. And so Jagdeo thinks that he's God for the PPP. He's their savior. So he went there with his propaganda and lies. And the same that he did in the mining town of Linden with a crowd that was mostly folks out of Linden. They're not Lindeners, but they were bussed into Linden to make it look as though a large crowd went out there. I noticed that this, at the podium, they had guys like Todd and others. Well, Todd is a Lindener. And there it is that they are promising 250 small business grants. I don't know. Can you say what exactly he means by small business grants? Like, what
exactly means by small business grants?
Like to start up a little tire shop and who
really? I'm having some distortions. I didn't hear you clearly. You say, what did he mean by small business grants?
Yeah, small business grants.
Yeah. Well, I consider them to be political gifts. That's what they are essentially. It's not a loan. They just claim that they're going to give small business owners some money to help with the business. First of all, how small must your business be? What qualifies you as a small business owner to receive this grant? What people do not know is that the Small Business Bureau, for example, has the capacity to loan as much as, I think it's $10 or $30 million for your small business to start up. How many of you can tell me, whether you're from PP Civic or APNU AFC or PNC, wherever you're from, that you have ever heard from one of the employees of Small Business Bureau that you can access $10, $20, $50 million to have a small business started? No, they give you $200,000 here. Now, in this society, if you are to purchase or to try to start up a small business with the cost of living, how can you start any business with sense with, let's say, 200,000 Ghana dollars or even 500,000 Ghana dollars? It doesn't make any sense. What these things are simply gimmicks from politicians to hand you little handouts here and there. And then it is so unfortunate because people are desperate, you're going to receive it. And all they'll have to say is that they gave it to you. Now, whether you succeeded in small business, it doesn't matter to them. Whether the business flopped, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they have a photo opportunity to say that they give you some money, a grant, let's say $200,000. And of course, it's added to their political cookie jar.
Of course, it's added, and I'm glad that you've mentioned that it's just a handout. It's a political gimmick because 250 small businesses, business grants, they are going to basically have a bunch of individuals outside of Region 10, their friends and their cronies, to go into Region 10 to claim that they're setting up a small business so that they can have access to that grant. It's another way of corruption, another form of corruption and money for the boys. It wouldn't trickle down to the ordinary business people, small business people, and so forth. Now, Mr. London, let's touch on this 800. You mentioned earlier 800 part-time jobs. I mean, part-time jobs doing what? Security at some school? 800? And this, you are correct. It's not in Linden, but it's across the region. 800 part-time jobs. Are these people just, Jagdeo and his cronies, just going in and pulling these numbers out of their pockets or their purse?
We have to be very clear on this. It is a, can you hear me? I hope you can hear me clearly. It is a part-time arrangement.
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud.
Initially, it was said to be a temporary arrangement.
Yeah, sorry, I'm hearing you loud and clear, sir. Yeah.
Now, what's the difference? And I reiterate for the purpose of your understanding audience. If Jagdeo claims or the Chronicle is claiming it's a part-time job, it means that you have got less hours to work or less days of the week to work. However, your job is essentially secure to some degree. If it's a temporary employment that you have, then it is short-term essentially, and you are terminated. Let's say you're bending steel or something. What is alarming to me is that someone who was at the meeting called and gave me a report that they said that they're going to have these jobs filtered through the private sector. That is a serious issue we're dealing with here. Because when you speak about across Region 10, Kokwani included, Ituni included, and when you're going to hear about the private sector in the community and the region being used as the conduit through which these jobs will be had, we have a problem. Because then you're going to have the money being given to the private sector, the companies and the businesses, and they're going to employ these people on a part-time basis. That is not the arrangement that is being filtered through to the community, essentially. It just seems as though the government or the administration will be providing these jobs. I heard from someone who was sitting in the meeting that Jagdeo clarified that it would be done through the private sector, which would be the business owners in the region. They're the ones who will be employing people on a part-time basis and giving them the money. So what is the other issue you have to address here? Who would be paying these private sector people, employees or employers to pay the staff? Now, can you imagine that in our country, it's possible that the government of Guyana, I call them the administration, would be giving money to the private sector in Region 10, and then the private sector, the members thereof, would be paying their staff. Do you understand the degree of corruption?
Or they will, what they will do,
that's the foot here.
That is so true. What they will do, say, for example, a business.
I'll have to experiment because I'm not hearing.
Sorry, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, we'll await the return of Apostle London there. We're talking about Jagdeo and the PPP's visit to Linden yesterday to spread their propaganda and their lies to the people of Linden. But we're not going to sit down here on 107.1 FM and encourage the lies and the propaganda and all these manner of things. We're just not going to allow that to happen. But something interesting that Mr. London said a short while ago about this, that the 800 part-time jobs, it is through the private sector commission. That is, of course, they are more pro-PPP. They are PPP. The private sector commission is a PPP. It's a mini PPP party, right? And so, look, the private sector now that will take, for example, Jenny or Ruth Yal selling cassava, right? Or Mark Johnson selling cassava, or Patricia Botchway. They have a plant in Stop or whatever. It simply means that Root Girl or Desiree or Donna Holder can send a voucher to whomever has to pay out this money to say, I hired 4 persons. They're not going to go to check to see whether Ruth Girl or Patricia or whoever Prince and these people hired. Once they're party supporters, they're going to give them that money from the voucher. Is that a good way to put it? Or do you have a better way of breaking it down again, Reverend Apostle?
It's an excellent way to put it, and it's a dangerous way in reference to what I'm hearing. My hope is that is not going to happen. I hope that there be some reassessment of the way forward, and this doesn't happen, because I have reports this morning, for example, that members of the community are complaining to me. They have a job now, and that's I think, Home Safe. Some employees are saying that these people are the security company. They are not giving them days off. They are, in reference to if the staff is not available, they have to come to work. The owner is bombarding them to work. On Sundays, they're not being paid the time and a half by law that they're entitled to. On Saturdays, on weekends, nothing. They're being abused right here in Linden. Now, if, for example, that owner is told by the administration, we're going to give you some money, employ some people on part-time basis. The staff also said that they're not even paid on time. They should be paid by the 7th of the month. Sometimes they're paid on the 27th of the month. Can we imagine what happens if you empower these corrupt individuals? I'm not saying that the owner of that business is corrupt, but if they are corrupt people in the region, what will happen to the staff? My point is, if this government continues to function in this manner, we are going to continue to see the massive corruption on display. And it doesn't seem as if there's any reining in of the PPP civic in reference to this behavior. Why would you have to pay people through some private entity? Why not say that at the regional level, you're going to have persons employed for the upkeep, the maintenance of the community, of the region? In that case, we can track the money. Hopefully, we would be able to track it through the regional level. Why not do that? How you get the private sector involved here in employing people, and then advertise it to be that there'd be 800 part-time jobs? Through which medium? That's all I want the PPP Civic to make clear to us. Through which medium? And when would it be audited?
Again, propaganda. And what they would say, and their surrogates would say, is that we are the ones who are spread. We're not. We are giving people the facts. We're not sitting here and talking off the top of our heads. We are basically asking questions that, look, you're talking about 250 small business grants. And of course, the process is highly questionable at this point in time. And then again, the other part of the propaganda is the 800 part-time jobs throughout Region 10. And I believe that the population in Region 10 is almost 28, nearly 30,000?
Almost 30,000.
Yeah. And throughout the region, you're talking about 800 part-time jobs. Sell cassava, sell plantain, sell walaba. God in heaven knows what else they're selling. Part-time jobs that these people are not going to be paid properly. You know what this reminds me of, Mr. London, is in 2011, when Ramotar, when he was campaigning, he promised the people of Linden 3,000 jobs for Region 10 or Linden. 3,000 jobs. What is your take on the 3,000 jobs that Ramotar and the PPP created?
The distortion is present. I don't know what's happening today in the studio, but on your and mine, it's quite distorted. Give me 1 second. Let me get my headphone.
Sure. Yeah. And in 2011, Ramotar promised the people of Linden 3,000 jobs. I'm looking at some of your comments here, whether some of you remember that. 3,000 jobs promised the people of Linden or Region 10. And then in the end, they gave them nothing, absolutely nothing, no jobs, no nothing. Well, I can't say they didn't give them anything. Under the PPP, under Ramotar's minority government, people were protesting, and instead of giving them jobs and all manner of things to make the mining town better or the region better, Under the PPP regime, these three persons were killed. They were slaughtered under the PPP regime. And so I'm saying all of this to remind people about what the PPP did to the people of Linden, right? I mean, I'm not sitting here talking off the top of my head. We have the evidence. This was when the soldiers or the police, sorry, they were in Linden. They did what they had to do, and three persons were slaughtered. Dozens of people were injured under the PPP regime. Again, I'll remind you, sorry, that in 2006 they stole a seat from the people of Region 10. They stole a seat. They have never won a seat for years now, right? But look at this. I hope when they were heading to Linden, that Jagdeo and others, the PPP guys, and even when they were busing people into Linden, the folks would have stopped here to actually spend a few minutes at the monument, remembering these guys: Ron Somerset, Shemay Boye, Alan Lewis, that were actually murdered, assassinated under the PPP regime. For what? All they were doing were protesting. I hope they stopped by there. I'm not sure, but I hope they stopped by. Mr. London, we were talking about the 3,000 jobs Donald Ramatar promised the people of Linden and Region 10. 3,000 jobs. Your take on the 3,000 jobs?
Well, Donald Ramatar and thereafter after him, of course, we know now we have Irfan Ali. These jobs, apparently the PP Civic has a way of saying that once you are on a job site, it must be considered a job added to the number, and the term is unimportant, or the period for which you work is unimportant. If, for example, someone comes to a job, they're building a school like Bami with the whole straight construction nonsense. If you have somebody employed for 2 weeks and they're bending steel, the administration will say that they have created 200 jobs because 200 men are bending steel. But those jobs only last for 2 weeks. They're not speaking to the term. And Ramatar's promise was not even met on a temporary basis because they have got no truthful determination to create any form of sustenance for Region 10. What the government, the PP Civic, seeks to do is to have Region 10 continue to beg, to acquiesce, to bow to them to get things done. They would not want to make Region 10 self-sufficient. Ali is in the media saying that Region 5 must be touted as the one now that would produce the meat and so on for the Caribbean and for Guyana. Now, what happened to Region 10? If Region 10, you know, is suffering immensely economically, why would the president get up to say now that he would target Region 5 to be this booming economic engine for food, for meat and food supply, because they have no intention of developing Region 10? Ramatar has never said anything, as far as I'm aware, that has made any political sense to me. So his 3,000 job promise didn't make any sense.
A lot of our listeners are definitely in agreement with what we're seeing, because we know the track record of the PPP. We know the track record of Barrett Jagdeo and the many lies. We know that they're not concerned about the people of Region 10. The evidence is there. We know that they're not concerned about the people in general throughout the country. They're more concerned about their pockets and filling their pockets and so forth. That is what it is. But let me ask you this, Apostle. You are on the ground in Linden. You travel throughout the region, I suspect. What's the sentiment like on the ground, the people?
Thank you. Persons in Region 10 remain quite disgruntled because life is, before the pandemic, it was tough economically. During the pandemic, it has been tough. And with the arrival of these miscreants, I have no better term to call these people, they are now demonstrating to us that they intend, apparently, to completely dismantle the very essence of what Region 10 is known to be, which is a strong, a very robust, a very united group of people. There seems to be a greater focus on backstabbing and on in fighting rather than there is on building this region. The people of the region have got, as far as I see it, very little or no confidence in the current crop of leaders, even in the region. Locally, I'm speaking here regionally. You don't have it. So it's just as if people have just decided that they're going to walk around and they're going to have their lives lived as best as they can. They're going to survive as best as they can. And then they're going to seek, to some degree, leadership or representation from some other source that is not their elected leaders. And that remains one of the greatest concerns of mine. We have got to reignite, hopefully I can do that with the help of others, the passion that Lindeners are known for. We are hardly seeing, for example, Dharmalal was here yesterday. The Linden that I know of would not have the likes of Dharmalal here after you have said to one of their representatives that she needs a dildo. How could he just strut into here and sit at the head table, as you can see? We have got to be serious again. I hope we are, about what happens in our region and who comes here. Because at the end of the day, they must be aware that Lindeners, although they may lose leadership, they must never lose the power to fight. And that is what I'm going to continue to beckon to my people, that we must reignite that passion to stand for what we believe in with all much resolve. Because these disrespectful beings should not be in our town at all.
And you are correct, because I recall the township, or even those who are part of the PNC, were more eager to protest their own leaders when their own leaders visited the mining town. But they're very quiet and silent when these chaps visit there. These oppressors visit them with the lies and the propaganda and all manner of things, and even insults, because they're not talking, like you've said, real jobs. You're talking about 800 part-time jobs that we're not sure where those jobs are going to come from. These guys should get an Oscar for lying, an Oscar for propaganda, because they seem to be taking these propaganda and slapping the people all over their face with it.
And permit me, sorry about that, but I have to, I must do this. The Mackenzie Bridge, for example, we have a serious issue, Mr. Benchtrap. And I say it's a major crisis we have in terms of transportation and mobility. This bridge has been in existence for decades. It cannot handle the demand in reference to the traffic. In the morning during rush hour, traffic can be as long as 3/4 of a mile, 1 mile. And in Linden, that is nothing to play with. We heard all the talk about there'll be a new Wismar to Mackenzie Bridge or Mackenzie Wismar Bridge. You'll have a new bridge and so on, 2 lanes and everything else. These people use our bridge in this town to go into the interior, to extract mineral resources, to pass back through Linden. They do not stop in Linden to make any significant contribution. Those who haul lumber, wood, they do not stop in Linden to make any significant contribution. Yet you've heard, I've got a report that they have not had any serious plan this year to include the construction of a bridge for us in Linden, the Wismar Mackenzie Bridge, because these people aren't serious. Now, if they could do that to us, how could we have the mayor not saying a word, the deputy mayor who was there didn't say a word about the bridge, the regional chairman, I think he may have gone to PNC, Congress, wherever they were, a meeting. But my point is something as significant as this. Where were the people to stand yesterday to say that we demand to have our bridge? Where are the representatives? We had councillors from the RDC, from the Democratic Council, who haven't said a word about not asking Jagdeo about a bridge, demanding that we have it. And if you don't give us a bridge, then this one would not being used. Now, that's when I could support people doing certain things, because this is disrespect.
You know, it is disrespect beyond disrespectful, and the leadership of the region seem to be very quiet about these things. They're not standing up, and they should. And oftentimes they get vexed when people talk. They get upset, they get emotional, they get into their feelings, because people are seeing, what's happening to the town, what's happening to the region. Stand up, represent your region, organize a couple of people to protest, not to stand up and listen to the propaganda of these individuals who don't care, who don't give a damn about your community. But somebody reminded us, Mr. Apostle, that, and we're looking at the time. I just asked of you to stop your farming for a couple of
That's
minutes,
okay.
because I know you got to go back, because there are some dogs that people lose their
Yeah,
dogs and argue about dogs and so forth. But you know what I'm talking about. But
I
thank you
do.
for your time. Now, this is how the PPP deals with their political opponents. Quite contrary to how PNC folks or the APNUFC, they seem to be more. And this is not knocking Jehovah's Witness, because I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I still feel a part of that. And this is not knocking them, but they're playing Jehovah's Witness politics, very quiet, very soft, and just ignore it. And
Yeah.
again, this is not to insult Jehovah's Witnesses. This is how Jagdeo and them deal with their political opponents.
Right across Guyana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country.
Well, exactly. The PPP is an illegal regime. They are in office under questionable circumstances. We have two, not one, we have two elections petitions that the PPP, see, they do not want it to be heard.
Hmm.
What's going on with Lindeners, man? They have done nothing. Sorry, yeah.
And I am convinced that it is an issue of leadership rather than the people, because the people must be led. People are encouraged to act based on how their leaders function. And when you have leaders who are going to be there sitting and just maybe for photo opportunities or just to say that they were present, and there is no stern reaction towards the PPP Civic, as I said, if under the PPP Civic administration, the first gift to Linden, among the first, would have been to totally eliminate the St. John's Ambulance Brigade staff. All the people were sent home. Those from certain social service sectors and so on were sent home. Then how could they come back into our town and have this wonderful welcome party, it seems, with councillors just being willing there to stand instead of sitting in front of the gate of the Watuka guest house? First of all, you're not coming in here because this is our town. We're hearing that you want to sell this place. What is going on with this? There was no public opposition. There was a welcoming, and there would have been an open arm approach, because apparently Jagdeo is qualified to threaten the stability of our country and nobody touches him. But if anybody does it in reverse, there's a problem. I am here to say that I was prepared to stand with those who want to have a problem, because nobody's going to steam railroad us in Linden. I am not going to sit there to listen to anyone have another political rally under the guise of coming to engage me in Linden. As a matter of fact, if Jagdeo wants to have a conversation with me, I would demand or request highly that we have it on a public platform, so the whole country could hear what we have to say.
You are correct, and the leadership and those in the opposition need to focus on things that are more of a important nature, priority. Photo ops and snapping photo with so-called friends, and it sends the wrong message at this time when you have a regime that is so oppressive, a regime that is questionable. The election results didn't reflect what the people of Guyana now have as their government. And so that needs to be addressed. The elections petition, the PPP is a questionable regime. They're not in there under any democratic means. And so they have to understand that they're not really a real government. And I just want to remind our listeners about that. There was something concerning the bridge. I remember sometime in 2012, the leadership then of Linden was actually talking about the bridge and the tolls and so forth, and all the money, the millions. And I want our listeners to know, it was brought up by Sharma Solomon when he was region chairman. And the fact that millions of dollars being made through the toll with all those big heavy duty trucks, as you've mentioned earlier, across the bridge, and not a cent remains in Linden to help to upkeep the mining tongue, the bridge, or whatever. It goes to Nissel, it goes into the pockets of corrupt politicians in the PPP. It is what happens. happens, right? But one would have thought, though, that maybe in the 5 years that the coalition was there, that maybe that would have been addressed to ensure then that the millions of dollars that's being taken out of Linden will remain there in Linden to help to build that town. But I don't know. Your take on that?
It is true. The highest earning, apart from Bosai, the second highest earning entity is the Wisma Mackenzie Bridge. I know of no other business being done in Linden that earns as much as that bridge. That bridge can generate, sometimes, let's say for a town week facility when it's very busy, $19-20 million in 1 month, or maybe more than that. And now, remember, we are already in PAC series for cars, for vehicles. So we have got thousands of cars in Linden. The main form of employment here is the public transportation with taxis and so on, private transportation. So we have got so much money being made at the bridge. It's $4,000+, sometimes up to $7,000 for a truck to cross that bridge. Where is the money going? You rightly said it goes to Nissel.
And you know, to Apostle, that even Lindeners, taxi drivers, do help me out. They also, as they do their trade, they have to pay the tolls as well, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Whenever they cross the bridge,
and the monies that they pay for the tolls is spent outside of Linden in the pockets of corrupt politicians. I don't know, something.
Right.
But
it is controlled.
Yesterday, though, you should have been out there. You know, we don't miss you with your placard, man. But instead, we didn't see you out there, and I understand that you can't do it all, Apostle.
No.
And I respect that. But you know, to see that the deputy mayor, I believe, the deputy mayor was actually sitting there as well, and I don't know, Apostle.
Well, the deputy, for me, Mark, I give every Guyanese the right to freedom of movement.
Sure.
They're free to go where they want to go. My point is, what do you do when you're there? If the deputy mayor chose to be there, fine. But what did he say when he was there? If the mayor chose to be there, then what did she say? If the regional chief, whoever it is. But I did not plan on being there because I knew that the environment was not going to lend itself me to engage Jagdeo, Ashley Singh, you, Todd, Dharamlal, and others in a way that I wanted to, because I had dealings with people before, and they say, well, there are a lot of people, we don't have much time to engage you. We'll talk later. And I'm not the kind who's going to go there just for you to push me off on the side. And I said I also had a pre-planned event, so I didn't even know about this until Saturday.
Until you saw the many buses and all.
Exactly. No, the day before I saw some security detail, and I said, hold on, why do we have night rider bus service in Linden from Saturday, the day before now? Why all this? I had to go to the guest house for some reason. And I said, why all these outsiders are at this guest house? Because I know who Lindeners. Only to find out that they were here one day ahead to make preparation. Preparation for whom? For Jagdeo? So I'm saying now, is this Irfan Ali who's coming here? Why do you have Jagdeo having to have so much detail in reference to his arrival? Is he president? So that's when I found out the day before the evening that this man is coming to Linden yesterday. Then I saw the buses, and I also saw, I think, the SWAT, and I saw the soldiers, and I asked them when I was passing, the two who were in the back of the army truck, I said, is this for Jagdeo? Exactly. I asked them because I want them to hear it. Are y'all serious? Is this for Jagdeo? Is he president? I asked the two SWAT team members and the soldier the question. Are you serious? Is this what you're doing for vice? And Jagdeo is not vice president for me, it's Jagdeo.
Good, I'm glad. Jagdeo indeed. You know, I don't know. Apostle, I know you have a busy day as well, but closing remarks, man. Anything, because I don't want the people to run away with the propaganda and the lies that Jagdeo and his team peddled yesterday in Linden and the people of Region 10. All bunch of lies and propaganda. Your closing remarks, sir.
I thank you. And what I would like to say to your viewers and the listening audience is that you must be careful about the actions of your leaders, as they call themselves leaders. They don't lead me. They call political leaders. If they genuinely care about you, then the actions and the policies will be felt by you at the lowest level of our society. If they do not care about you, then you're going to have complaints about the fact that the cost of living is escalating and it's difficult for you to really make it. Linden, that's your reality. Region 10, that's your reality. It is tough for you to make it at this time. What is required of us is that we must unite not to consume each other with complaints, but to resist the oppressors, to let them know that they are going to give us what we demand, or we shall make their lives uncomfortable. In reference to us agitating, in reference to us protesting, in reference to us standing up to what is wrong. We cannot continue to sit back and watch even our elected leaders fail us at this community level. It is time for us to stand resolutely to oppose that which is not going to benefit us in Linden. First of all, we demand that we have a bridge that services our community, and we demand that there's a special task, a special committee that would have oversight of our money here made from the bridge. It is made in Linden. Let it benefit Linden. Let it be for the upliftment and the upkeep of our town. We demand that as Guyanese, we have that which is rightfully ours. The days are over us. The days are over for us to sit back and allow politicians to believe that they have as much power as they think they do to do to us what they think they can. This is the hour, Guyanese, for us to really oppose that which is not to our benefit. We have to stand together. We must oppose those who seek to hurt us and to cripple us. Finally, if Jagdeo could say that there's nothing he can do about the increase in cost of living, and there's nothing he can do to buffer that, then don't talk to me about any 800 jobs, because he said he could do nothing. Guyanese, it's time for you to think. You're not stupid people. If Jagdeo says to you there's nothing that he can do, then there's nothing he can do. Don't come there with a political campaign strategy to say, well, we're giving you 800 jobs to help you in this situation. You said you can't do anything. What you could have done is, first of all, the oil money that you all seek to tap into illegally, use that to begin to bring some relief to us. Do what your girl Maya Mati is doing in Barbados. Give us relief indeed. Mr. Ben Shop and your viewers, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, and good luck with your farm. I know that's another thing that you do. Be careful with those dogs.
I got them under control.
Right? We don't want a lot of barkings from their owners after that. But God bless you, and keep up the good work.
Blessings.
Sir.
Thanks.
Sure. Sorry about that, Apostle London there for us. I took him time away from his farm. I kind of like farming myself. When I was a little boy, I remember my own little back house garden with shallots and belange and so forth, right? So if you're still out there in the country, wherever you are, do your bit of farming, right? Plant your stuff. Eat your bora from your backyard, your shallots and these manner of things. Just go and plant something, all right? But I'm not done yet, though. I still have a few more minutes I want to spend with you. These are the 3 persons who were killed during the PPP years of terror. And these folks were they were caught up in a crowd. People were protesting, rightfully so, they should. But instead of being treated, with respect and proper negotiations, they slaughtered the people. They sent in the police, and you can see what's happening there. They sent in the police, and they slaughtered the people of Linden, the 3 folks out there in Linden. What I'm saying here is not a matter of propaganda. It's not a matter of, just sitting to talk for talk's sake. The evidence is there. And this, not only the evidence, the monument is right there. So when you're driving into Linden, you will see this right there before you turn into, a few minutes before you turn into the home stretch heading into Linden. This is it. There's a monument. Jagdeo and his cronies and his boys and them, when they drive, they see that monument. I wonder how they feel now that they're heading back into Linden to talk about the same propaganda of a tongue that they basically destroyed in every sense, economically and otherwise. They're going there now with the propaganda again to talk about jobs and to talk about 250 small business grants, a form of corruption, mind you. If you know the PPP that well and how they have governed, you know exactly what it is. Corruption, that is what it is. Corruption, right? And then 800 part-time jobs. They don't know where these 800 part-time jobs are going to come, right? Where are they going to come from? I don't know. Where are they going to come from? But speaking of the part-time jobs and the fact that they suddenly care about the people of Region 10, the people of Linden, A few years ago, Rusal, a Russian company, a company that Jagdeo is very close with, um, he renting that property in Queenstown. I don't know whether the taxpayers of Guyana get that money, but he's renting it to Rusal, the Russian company. He sold a piece of land, 4.7 or 4.6 acres, to the man who owns Rusal, right? He's currently blacklisted by the US and the UK. Um, one of those oligarchs. This is a piece of land that he sold for $120 million. Where is that money? Who got that $120 million, right? These are things that we must be able to ask these folks who are parading around as leaders, as government officials, right? These were the days in Linden under the PPP. They want control, full control of Linden. And so when they put these photographs out of propaganda purpose, you would know exactly that that is what it is. When you pay taxpayers' money, use taxpayers' money to bus people, to boat people in to the mining town in order to send that message out that people love you. No, people don't love you. People want jobs. Jobs that you haven't been able to create. In the 23 years that they've been in office, they haven't been able to do that. They have starved the people of Linden, starved the people of Guyana, all over. And so now they're back. And when I see them coming in or heading back to Linden with their propaganda or anywhere, it is my duty to speak up. I'm not going to sit here and talk propaganda off the top of my head like some numbskulls who just click on their what is it, their Facebook page and live camera and talk crap all day in order, and then when they finish talking crap, they head down to Freedom House and collect their little bowl of soup and these manner of things, disguising themselves as critic and not. They're a bunch of numbskulls, right? So when we sit here, we know that those of us who expose them, whether it's through straight up or whatever programs that we have via Benchop Radio. When we expose them, they get upset. Dr. David Hines do the same thing. They get upset. They start call, poor Dr. David Hines, black pudding man. And we are racist. When we say these things, we are racist, right? Sherrod Duncan, the same thing. He does his thing, and they put us down as the bad guy. Kadaki does his thing as well. And they have us down as the bad guys. We are racist. We are this. We are that. Right? I know Burke has had his piece of description of being racist and so forth, but I notice these days Burke doesn't have any time with them. I've long ignored the PPP and Jagdeo and their propaganda. Burke is right. Just ignore them, Burke. Burke used to get worked up when they used to say we live in a basement. Well, I used to tell them that I'm broadcasting live from a basement with a little hole, right? I don't have a problem with that. And so they could laugh and say whatever they want to say, right? Speaking of Burke and that photograph of Jerry Govaya, huh? Burke, stop taking photographs of these sort of people. Jerry might be your friend, but he's on the side of the oppressor, right? He's on the side of the oppressors, oppressing Guyanese daily. He sits there, he gets a fat paycheck as a quote unquote national security advisor. He's a businessman. He makes money. He makes hundreds of millions of dollars. And so he's satisfied. He's not going to be on our side. He's not going to speak about your hurt or my hurt or people's hurt or whatever. He's not going to speak about that. He's quite comfortable. He may whisper in your ear that he's going to try and do this and try and do that. Don't be fooled. Stop with those photographs, my friend. Stop with those photographs, right? I know Jerry too. I don't have a problem to say that I know Jerry, but what I do know is that Jerry is basically there hustling, right? He's not. You think Jerry is concerned about the 300 plus person or 3,000 persons who have lost their jobs? You think Jerry is concerned about people who are being persecuted? You think he's concerned about that? No, he's not concerned about that. And the only person who benefits from such a photograph, Burke, is not you. It's not you, my friend. It is Jerry Govaya, not you. We got to stop these things. If there's going to be photographs, then we must benefit from it. Our people must benefit from it. Now is not the time for photographs. Now it's not the time for handshakes. It is not the time for that. It is a time for serious, non-violent political fight, political trouble. As the late Congressman John Lewis said, good trouble, not friendly photographs. It doesn't work. It's counterproductive. Before I go, I wanted to, you guys know I'm a before I go kind of guy. I'll say that about 100 times, right? Before I go, right? I want to share this here with you guys to remind some of you who don't know what's happening or what happened in Linden prior to the PPP being installed back into office. I want to share something with you all. It's just going to be a couple of minutes. Bear with me, please, right? As I share it. And as you prepare for your lunch,
See the war zone, we can play this in the war zone. We want justice. Let the children run in the war. Fight the one man running. The war zone.
And you want to target the one to idiots, man. Idiot president.
Assault a weapon, to use it on the ground. And you still got him in there. There. Stay there. Rank of a superintendent. That's not ordinary rank. Rank of a superintendent.
You know what is it?
I don't know if they want to go find you. No, we don't know his name. Yeah, but he's right in there. He's right in there. What's your name? Superintendent what?
He said you can arrest them. In the yard.
People start running to the street. So we turn, I just start see what is going on, and then I really turns up, and it gets moving.
You think it's pellets? What was it?
I'm really sure what I really should, because I'm just start hollering, blood start running.
And your father, how was he injured?
He's not injured, because he was sitting and I was standing.
Okay. What's your name? What's your name?
Marlon Richard.
Marlon, what happened to you when? Where?
I was like in from my yard. When they say have this in this
your
scheme.
yard?
912 Chipali, these are the top business. Yeah. And people like coming to the scheme. So them police them like coming through and them want coming through the scheme. Them are shooting everybody. People glass, them are falling up. The thing that's getting wild, the room falling down. And I get hit in my foot.
So in your case, you were not on the road?
No.
In the yard.
In my yard, I was talking from my yard. Like you can say in my yard.
Was this police? Did you identify the shooters as police or soldiers?
I know one police. I know the person who shot me.
You know?
I say that to myself. Yeah, I know it.
Okay.
Because he watched me in my face and shoot me. Yeah.
Was any other person in your yard at the time?
No. It was just me and them, me other brethren, the rest of friend, and the father put them real bad. Yeah, all we was in one in front of me yard. You could see, yeah.
Okay.
Like, how old are you? 19 years.
What's the
Call when you came on duty?
David is my name. I'm sorry.
Sergeant David?
Yes, please.
Are you a police officer?
Nicole,
How many people you were here?
I'm not in a position to speak.
Sorry, you said your name was Sergeant David.
Yes.
Normally, a police officer, his outfit is clearly outlined with his name and his number. I'm not seeing that, just 2 stripes. Could you indicate what's happening with your number?
My number?
Yeah, your serial number and your name is normally on your shirt.
It's broken.
It's broken?
How long?
What's
Not long ago.
Sir, are you an officer or are you within the forces of some other agency?
Police sergeant, ma'am.
So what is your serial number? What is your serial number?
I am sent to the nation worldwide that 3:30 in the morning, I have to run with my little 3 children out of bed, hollering with tear gas. I have to run them and soak them down out of warm bed. They were sleeping 3:30 in the morning. What is police really doing to people in Linden? We ain't got pay. What really going on now? Everywhere now they come and say that them tear gas us. Well, then is who doing the tear gassing? We can't tear gas ourselves.
All right, that's sorry. Yeah, that's basically to remind you guys about the PPPC. And now they're back in Linden again. They're back in Linden. Lindeners, wake up. Wake up. The people of Region 10, wake up. Take a look all across the region. What sort of developments have you seen? There is no evidence of development, economic developments, and so forth under the 23 years of the PPPC rule. And now some may question, and rightly so, the coalition had 5 years. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. However, I do believe that maybe more should have been done for the people of Region 10, the people of Linden, of course, Ituni and Kokwani. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we saw some sort of progress in the mining town, which is equivalent to far more than what the PPPC ever did for the people of that region. Again, I say more should have been done under the coalition, but I think they were on the right path. Unfortunately, they were cheated out of office, and we now have a government that rigged its way into office. This is the same folks, bunch of folks who do not want the elections petitions to be heard. I will be back tonight, right here on 107.1 FM. And I leave you by saying, do not fall for the propaganda. Do not fall for the lies. They are what they are. Propaganda and lies. Let us not run away from it. Propaganda and lies. That is what the PPP is known to do. Spread propaganda and lies. And so we must never, never allow ourselves to be caught up in that trap. Lindeners, wake up. Leaders of Linden, wake up. Members of Parliament of Linden, y'all, wake up. Wake up. A lot of them are very quiet these days. God in heaven knows why. I've got to go, man. I'll be back later this evening. God bless you, and God bless the beautiful, beautiful people of Region 10. Sorry, since you know our operator Lemon, we're trying to ensure that we leave you with a beautiful song, because Guyana is not just, it's not one Guyana. It is one people, one nation, one destiny. These political vagabonds in the PPP ought to be reminded about that. One people, one nation, one destiny. All right. Until, like I said, later this evening, I will see you guys back at that time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy your lunch, whatever you're eating, whatever you have to eat, even if it's plantain chips, just enjoy it. God bless.
15th and 16th.
Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, really admire them. Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, really admire them. She fat like a butter, and she muggle like a chow. Oh, Smallest is still on my mind. Smallest is a good time. Never had so little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, that's really admire them.
What they singing?
On your carpet, you must be like the roses, all you need, bright and shining, you must be, and show me the one, love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girl, second the boys, Sunday, Monday, afternoon, we will spend our honeymoon. Oh, Smallest is still on my mind. Smallest